Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. How you doing out there? Still in a pretty good mood, aren't you? Well, the election coverage night, we had a little bit of an assist here on WBAP with one of my regular guests, Raven Harrison, who we're going to start with. Raven Harrison, was this your first time sitting in the studio hosting on WBAP, or had you done this before?
I've done it before, but not with BAP, so it was nice.
Well, how'd you like it?
It was fun. I was really, really surprised. We had great gadgets to play with. We had pizza, and we were having a great time, kind of counting it down till Trump crushed it.
I like it because I hear Clayton Neville do his show. I've heard some of Anthony Russo's podcast. I've seen what you do, and then to sort of mix that up, it was like seeing characters mixing on your favorite TV shows.
It was really a great night.
All right, so one thing I'll give you credit for is you were the first one to call it, and when the other guys in the studio were like, well, I don't want to jump the gun here, you're like, it's over. Admit it, it's over. So how are you so confident?
Well, I was so confident because, what I was realizing, I had a good quote today, James, is I used to watch the news to stay informed, and now that's exactly why I don't watch the news, is because if X allows us to get information, it was all propaganda. I kept trying to tell people that, and I spent a fair amount of that morning calming my friends down. What's going to happen? They're cheating. And I was like, of course they're cheating. Okay, but we knew that. Last time we were coming from behind trying to catch this. This time we were in real time going, So that's the difference is we know the numbers don't lie. Hundreds of thousands at Trump's rally, a few bust-in people, and people are wanting you to believe this was close. It was never close.
Well, one of the important things right now is in this first week or so after the election results, you got to look at the side that lost and say, well, are you going to be a little introspective and learn your lesson and figure out why your message didn't resonate with the American people? And I'm not sure if they're getting that message. A lot of them are still sticking with it's because she was black, or it's because she was a woman, or it's because they're misogynist, or they don't want trans to exist. And I don't think they're learning their lesson, Raven.
No, they're not. They're doubling down on the crazy. They're still talking about Trump's going to put them in camps, all this other nonsensical. If he was going to do that, he didn't do it in the first term. I mean, people have lost their mind. They have gotten away from their message. The Democrats had no platform. Their platform was hate Trump. And the American people can't feed their families with that. They can't do their 401ks with that. They can't fill up their gas tanks with that. And instead of listening to the will of the people and saying, you know what, we really should take a look at this, they just want to double down and go, okay, we're just going to hate. And what do you see now today, James? Women are shaving their heads off. And
I saw that one. That was getting passed around. And aren't we just enjoying this? I feel a little bit of concern for her. But you know what? If you're going to drive yourselves nuts believing that this guy's Hitler, then you deserve it. You deserve to have your week ruined.
Well, I'm just I really would like to get a moment inside the brain. If you think shaving your head off and not having sex is going to hurt Trump, how? This is like a win-win. So no babies are going to lose their lives because of this. You're not hurting Trump. These people who are losing their mind.
Yes. And
I want you Trump supporters to know.
That's a behavior pattern that I find fascinating. It's very performative. They know that's not going to affect change. They just want the rest of the world to know how crazy they are, Raven.
James, I swear to you, if mental illness was a buffet, these people are all you can eat. It is next level crazy of just going, put your head down. The world went on again today, and it will tomorrow. It's going to be great. Enjoy your money. Well,
let's also show some concern here, Raven. I think we're being a little flippant about the missing 15 million Democrat voters from 2020 to 2024. Has anyone put out a search warrant for these guys? Has anyone put up, are they going to be on some milk cartons?
I don't think so, but they're not missing. We just don't know where they are. But that goes to show you exactly 15 million didn't disappear. They probably never – that's what happens when you get these mail-in ballots at 3 a.m., and I'm very, very glad that wasn't allowed to happen. But I was disappointed to see that Kamala left her people standing outside for a concession, said nothing to them that night, the people who had stood out and defended her. It was really, really telling that she chose to leave and not make a concession speech. And then when she did, she copied Hillary's almost verbatim.
Well, if the evidence keeps piling up that the election in 2020 was sketchy, What does that make the January 6th protesters? Then they're no longer insurrectionists. They were patriots who were trying to stop an insurrection.
They are victims, and one of those is a good friend of mine, Jake Lang, who's been in jail for 4 years now, pre-trial detention. He's been moved 15 times and tortured and hurt, and people don't realize we need to set these people free. That's what needs to happen, and I cannot wait. We need to make sure we get our elections fixed, paper ballots, voter ID, because only states that Kamala won were the ones that did not have voter ID.
Yeah, I saw that statistic. That's true, huh?
So that's what we need to do. This
Wow.
is our opportunity. We got too close, James, too close to communism. This is our opportunity to fix what's really wrong, and I hope President Trump is going to start enacting justice. We need to start seeing people go to jail for breaking the law.
All right. I'm actually having a J6 political prisoner on the show. It's not going to be till like 4:30. But let's keep that on the front of everyone's mind, because I want to see day one pardons for all of them. Raven, thank you very much for your help on election night here on WBAP. What are you plugging these days? TheRoarPack.com?
TheRoarPack.com. We're still helping our vets, and that's what we're going to do. Mobile commissary.
All right. Thank you very much, Raven Harrison. The question is, does Team Blue understand why they lost? Why? Because look, I really, you don't want them to understand. If they're going to be running into bandsaws on their own, you don't want to stop them. So, hey, maybe they should just keep trying the same failed approach on the next election cycle here in 4 years and lose again. I understand that, but the world would be better. The country would be better if they understand that it really was the price of eggs that made the difference. It really was the hardship that you had, not just economically, but in about 28 other facets of life. And racism wasn't even in the top 100 of people's concerns. The fact that it was a woman wasn't in anyone's top 100 priorities list. But if they don't want to get that, hey, keep calling us Nazis and fascists and bigots and whatever the heck else. In the meantime, that makes it really easy to enjoy when the people who were just calling you Nazis, the people who were just calling you fascist, or at least saying you support the guy, you support a Nazi, you support literally Hitler. When these people just get done calling you racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, does it still make me a bad person if I enjoy them crying? Does it still make me a bad person if I can just sit on my couch for almost a straight hour, just flipping through social media and just laughing and having myself a little cocktail? And like, that's what I did for entertainment last night. You understand? I didn't watch a movie. I didn't watch Netflix. I didn't watch like a rerun of Seinfeld. I just sat on social media watching people cry, watching people. I was loving the meltdowns. But I found a new category of reevaluation here that I think you'll like. My friends tipped me onto this. They were passing around. We started passing around each other videos of people making these predictions like the day of the election. And I think I enjoy this even more. I might enjoy this more than the meltdowns, like the crying. Because the crying's funny. I get it. But here, let me give you, this is the best example. Because I want you to just, you don't even have to see her face. You can hear her voice and know exactly what she looks like. Short haired, no makeup, wearing a t-shirt, big dumb glasses. Listen to how smarmy she is. Listen to how dripping with condescension this lady is. Look at how she leans on her credentials. Look at how she talks down to the guy she perceives to be her inferior because of her expertise. This was election day. This was in the afternoon on election day. You're just going to love this. Listen to this. You love it too.
Okay, so we're closing in on almost 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today. And my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And the women are voting in numbers relative to men that are unbelievable. She's won this. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye.
That makes me so happy inside. I wish I could just tap into her right now. I wish I could jump through her phone. How you feel about it now? Because you know how I feel about it now? I feel like the Andy Williams song.
It's the most wonderful
What were you saying there?
time of the year.
Hey, you going to drink that champagne? You still need that bottle? I could use it over here.
And everyone telling you
You're a political analyst, huh? You're an expert. How'd that work out for you?
it's the most
You knew better than the idiot, fat, MAGA, middle-aged, white loser in the grocery store?
it's the
You really showed him, didn't you?
season.
See what I'm saying? Isn't that delicious? I could do that for... I did it for an hour last night. I'm a crazy person. Here's another good one. That's just the overconfident prediction guy. We have a guy who's weak fat and not one drop of testosterone in his body, but he's in front of this map and he's made his own electoral map on how he thinks the election's going to go. And he has Georgia going blue. He had North Carolina going blue. He had Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I mean, he was just so confident that he was going to be right.
Okay, so let's keep it together, people. I haven't changed my map. Check it out. I still have Harris is getting 349 electoral votes.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be a landslide. I know a lot of you are sleeping better because we're having discussions and you're starting to realize this is very realistic.
This is on Election Day.
I also have people saying not only do they agree with me on Florida, but so many people are telling me to change Texas to blue. I'm going to still leave it at red. Look at how many votes we have to play with.
How
Don't
wrong
listen
was
to
he?
CNN or anything.
That goes on for another 30 seconds. We're not going to listen to all that. Isn't that delicious? So that I don't know if that's more fun or the people that are freaking out because they think we're about to be in Handmaid's Tale. Because I mean, if you believe that irrational, absurd worldview, you deserve to lose a little sleep.
So it looks like all the white women who voted for Trump are about to find out what Serena Joy went through when they cut off her little finger in The Handmaid's Tale. Because Trump's buddies are all over social media saying, hey, guess what? We are going to enact Project 2025, and Trump has just promised us all spots in his administration.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's right. Handmaid's Tale coming up. Jimmy Kimmel cried. This is a comedy routine. You're not supposed to cry? That's not funny?
Let's be honest. It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare.
Voice quiver. Okay. Team Blue, relax. We're not Nazis. We're not really Hitler. No one's going to put you in camps. No one wants to take away your freedoms. There's not going to be Handmaid's Tale. You're not going to have to dress up like a ketchup bottle. No one's going to cut off your finger. But I just mixed it because my kids listen to Taylor Swift, and there's this one song that says you need to calm down. So a lot of times when I say y'all need to calm down, they'll sing you need to calm down back to me, and then I start singing them back to them, and then we giggle. So I did a little remix for you because I think the kids would like this too.
And I don't even think that shock is the word. A criminal! An actual criminal. You all just thought, yeah, I'll tick that box. I'll give him a job.
Yeah,
what?
that'll be fine.
This can't be real. This can't be real. You don't understand how scared of this man I am.
Oh, relax.
This man scares the shit out of me, and now
You'll be fine, babe. You'll be fine. It's okay.
Let's be honest. It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare, for our climate.
Misogyny, hatred, but also just stupidity. I am so absolutely infuriated.
It'll be
And
okay,
y'all
bud.
think this is cute.
It is.
Y'all think this cute because you watch some ignorant ass streamers on Twitch who sit over here and promote this stuff.
I do want to very quickly send a quick message to all the pollsters, the election pollsters.
So it looks like all the white women who voted for Trump are about to find out what Serena Joy went through when they cut off her little finger in The Handmaid's Tale. Bleeding out in an emergency room because you'd rather carry water for the white men in your life.
Coming up next on the James Show, why do you think she lost? The polls were wrong, but why? Why were they wrong? Why is there a majority of the American people in the popular vote voting for Team Red for the first time since 2004? Well, if you listen to, I don't know, like Juan Williams or who is this other one? I didn't know who she was. Ashley something or other on CNN. Ashley Allison. She's like, well, you know what this is? This is all about racism and misogyny.
It's not just working class people. It's a conversation we need to have with white women. Like, what is happening? And for Hillary Clinton, 53%.
Stop it. Don't learn the lesson. Don't learn the lesson. You keep fighting against the patriarchy. Shave your head. Have a protest. Throw tomato soup on the Mona Lisa. Whatever you people do. Glue your hand to something. But that's not why you lost. You can go fight the patriarchy, and you can go try and convince the world that men are cow patties. But really, if you diagnose your disease wrong, you're going to apply the wrong medicine. I think Kamala lost because of your grocery bill. I think Kamala lost because, look, and it's not just the price of eggs. It's also the grocery bill. You pay 30% more now for your groceries, but you pay pretty much 30% more for almost everything. And if you didn't get a 30% bump in income over the last 4 or 5 years, your standard of living went down. And I don't think I'm oversimplifying it. You make people's life worse off, the incumbent party pays the price. Now, whether Kamala Harris did that, and she deserves the blame, I'm just saying that's what voters think. That's the voting mentality. So that was part of it. I think there's a little part of it, that is Kamala dodging the media. She probably thought she could do that, say Biden dodged the media. He ran... He hid out in his basement the entire campaign cycle. But what we're learning now is actually that didn't work. That's not why Biden won. But I think it has to help. It has to hurt him, at least with PR purposes. You're giving fewer sound bites. You're not out there controlling the narrative in the way you could if you were just doing the press conference. And any person who's a critical thinker who's trying to do a deep dive into this woman didn't have enough material to work with. I don't think that's the majority of voters. That's definitely not the low information voters, the people who we depend on to be swayed by such things. But yeah, the economic issues, I think, are more than anything else. And what does that mean? That means until you start balancing the budget, the incumbent party, whether it's Republicans or Democrat, is going to have a hard time getting reelected. So let's think about that. Inflation was pretty well under control, but the budget started to get out of control under George W. Bush. And after he was done, the Democrats stepped in. And Obama took over. But after he was done, it went back to the Republicans. And then after he was done, it went back to the Democrats. And after he was done, it went back to the Republicans. It's seesawing back and forth because they are not balancing the budget. They're seesawing back and forth because your income is not keeping up with inflation. They are seesawing back and forth because the inflation that is just built into our system, it's like taking your treadmill and turning the incline on like 10. Not turning it on 15, not turning it up full blast, just makes it considerably harder. Makes life a little tougher. Here's what I think they're not learning their lesson on, and you're still going to hear more of. You're still going to be called fascist Hitler Nazis after this, and I know I said the secret word, so let's do that. But they're going to stick with that because it works. Look online. You see all these people that are crying and scared and breaking stuff and screaming and crying in their car. It's because they have been made to believe the whole fascism shtick that you really are a Nazi or dumb enough to support Nazis. That's effective. They're not going to get off that. That did not hurt them. And I think they're going to stick with abortion too, seeing as how 1/3 of their female voters were single issue voters who were voting for Team Blue based only on that. They don't care how bad the economy is, how bad inflation is, how many wars we're in, how many people are dying. They don't care about your rights, your gun rights, your civil liberties. Just please, can I abort my fetus? 800-288-9227. So why do you think they lost? How can they win their voters back? Let's ask Darcy and Azel. You're next up on WBAP. Why do you think they lost?
Well, I think they got bud-lighted overall, but you can take your pick: the economy, foreign policy, the border, the Green New Deal, education or the lack thereof. I think you can kind of take your pick in any of that. But they went woke, and here you are. Not to mention the name calling, but yeah, it's a pretty broad brush.
Yeah, you know what? The border probably deserves more of a mention than I gave it. I think you're absolutely right. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to start adopting lock down the border policies in order to win their voters back? What do you think they're going to do?
I don't think they're going to do anything. They're going to just kind of throw something up against the wall and see what sticks.
Right. Okay. I buy that. Thank you, Darcy and Hazel. Let's go to Kendall and Bloom. You're on WBAP. Why do you think they lost?
I think I have three top reasons why Kamala Harris lost. Number one being she was an installation candidate. She didn't have to run against anyone. She was just put there. And two, she has a problem connecting with voters, in my opinion, like throwing word salads around, like being unburdened by what has been, as an example. And the third reason, I just feel like she is just not likable. Like, when she speaks, it comes across as inauthentic.
So you don't have any platforms in there. You didn't say the economy. You didn't say the border. You didn't say the forever wars. You didn't.
Well, I was getting to that. Like,
oh, okay.
As your last talker said, like, take your pick. I have a whole laundry list of reasons why I didn't vote for her.
Are they going to fix any of these issues?
Maybe.
All right.
I mean, if they don't, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot.
I don't know. I think, look, if they truly believe you're Nazis and you're fighting Nazis and Hitler, then you're not going to say, oh, well, we need to change some of our policy preferences, or maybe we need to at least pretend to support a border, or maybe we need to at least pretend like men can't get pregnant. I don't see any of them learning the lesson at all. And I don't think that any of them were bothered by the installation candidate part. I have a lot of Democrat friends, and none of them said, oh, man, that really bothers me that they just stuck her in there and they made Joe step down. Not one. My next guest, Evan Sayet's been saying America is not happy with the economy. They're not happy with inflation. They're not happy with the border situation and illegal immigration and what's going on with that. Not happy with the forever wars. Not happy with the whole host of issues, this whole trans thing and mutilating the undercarriages of minor children. I mean, there's a lot to be concerned about. Is that the takeaway from Team Blue? I don't know. Let's ask Juan Williams real quick.
I'm not sold on this idea that, it was the cost of eggs. I worry that it was, I'm not voting for this woman, or I'm not voting for this black woman.
I don't know. That's not what we see in our data.
Yeah, so that's what it is. Evan Sayet, are they really blaming racism and sexism here, or do they understand that there was more at play on why they lost?
No, they really don't understand why they keep losing elections. And that includes, by the way, the previous election and the one before that in 2016. They, having no values themselves, and I'm about to prove that point in a moment, but they don't understand why anybody would disagree with them. Right? They are the party of love. They love everything. They love good and they love evil. They love right and they love wrong. They simply do not distinguish between good and evil, right and wrong, better and worse, truth and lies. And therefore, the only reason, if nothing is better than anything else, the only reason you could think something is better is because you're a bigot. And the only reason you could think something is worse is because you're a phobic. So the only explanation they can have for any position other than their own is bigotry or phobia.
Beautiful.
They have no other choice.
This is why I have you on the show. Do you think they're going to make any policy changes?
It's hard to know because they are so beholden to the far left. And the far left is incapable of any sort of compromise because even the slightest compromise, open borders, for example, that's indiscriminateness. You let anybody in. You do not discriminate against drug runners. You don't discriminate against terrorists. Even the slightest control then becomes the evil of discriminating. And so long as they are beholden to the far left woke ideology that nothing is better than anything else, they're locked into this position, which is why Juan Williams, who's not a hateful person, he's not, I have to be careful because the definition of stupid is somebody who's wrong, but he's not inarticulate. He's not wholly unaware of the facts, and yet he can't even see that it might be a possibility that a hugely unpopular candidate, she ran to be the Democratic Party's nominee in 2020 and was so singularly unpopular she couldn't even make it to the first vote. Right? Then when she was picked as a DEI candidate, a DEI choice to be vice president, she was vice president to a hugely unpopular president, and her ratings were even lower. So now when they finagled the situation, finagled democracy to allow her to become the nominee, no wonder this always unpopular woman, this unpopular person, this unpopular candidate, so far to the left that she couldn't even get the Democratic Party nomination. Of course she lost because she does not reflect in any way, shape, or form what the American people care about. James, it is so easy to understand what the American people want right now. They want a border that keeps the bad guys out. They want police. They want police who arrest the criminals. Right. They want prosecutors who prosecute the criminals. They want educators who educate. They want entertainers who entertain. It really isn't very hard, but the political left will not allow for borders that protect, police that arrest the bad guys, prosecutors who prosecute the bad guys, because they simply do not recognize the difference between good and bad, right and wrong, good and evil. They just don't.
You spell it out. It almost sounds like I don't want to say a mental illness, but like a mental condition, maybe. I don't know what the better word for it is. Maybe it is mental illness.
Well, if it is a mental illness, we know what that mental illness is, and it's a narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes.
And that's not just me. I mean, there's a brilliant book that came out at the beginning of the woke movement, one of the first people to recognize it, and he called this book The Culture of Narcissism. Not all that long ago, one of the keenest cultural observers, a woman named Jean Twenge, I think that's how she pronounces it, from the University of San Diego or San Diego State University. She wrote a book entitled The Narcissism Epidemic. And all she did really was crunch the numbers. And there's a reason for it. In my very first speech to the Heritage Foundation, I made this statement that the modern liberal, now called the woke, are morally and intellectually retarded at the age of 5. And the reason it's the age of 5 is that's when they enter kindergarten, and the woke powerhouses, the powers that be, of academia and education, get a hold of them.
The government powers that be, yeah.
Right. Well, in the education and academia. I mean, it's the first time on a full-time basis. And there's actually a book out there called All I Ever Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And what you learn in kindergarten is that everybody's special, but nobody's more special than anybody else. Don't hurt anybody else's feelings. Don't tell somebody they're fat, because everybody's shape, everybody's size, and they are literally morally and intellectually stunted at the level of the 5-year-old child. And narcissism is a natural stage of childhood. It's one that a 5-year-old child, thank goodness, goes through rather quickly. But that sense of me, mom, look at me.
Evan,
well, that's the state. Yes, I know. Yes.
Yeah, we all have been around kids enough to recognize that part. I want you, because I only have a minute left. Explain to me the mindset of these people who are crying in their car and they want to video it and put it out for the whole world to see. I don't want the world to see me crying about anything, but it feels very performative. It almost seems like half of them aren't really crying. They're putting on a show. What is with that mindset?
Well, one of the things about the mental illness of narcissism, and let's be clear, I am not just saying that they're, a little self-absorbed or a little self-centered. There is a mental illness, a debilitating mental illness, narcissistic personality disorder. And one of the things about narcissistic personality disorder is since you have no inner core yourself, you get a sense of your own goodness only by reflecting off of others. You need other people to approve of you. You need other people to say, oh, you're compassionate. You need other people. And that's why the performative aspect of the modern liberal.
These people are making themselves into sociopaths. Do you realize they're like sort of doing a weird self-grooming sort of thing? Evan, say it. Where do they find you online?
They go to evansayet.com, S-A-Y-E-T, or they buy my books at Amazon.com, S-A-Y-E-T.
Here's some breaking local news. They're having big problems at DFW International Airport and both Love Field. You can't get a flight out of there right now because all the upset people are leaving the country. I'm just kidding. They're staying. They're not going to leave. That's just a fun thing that people say and they never mean it. But boy, wouldn't that be great if it was true? I mean, if you want to have fun in future elections, have all the people who are mad enough about it to leave, go ahead and leave. We never have to worry about losing an election again. Why do you think Kamala lost, though? Because I'm listening to the reaction here, and there's some reasonable people on TV, and my Democrat friends that I talk to are far more reasonable than these people I see on social media. It just seems like the more extreme you are, the more likely you are to just want to belt it from the top of a mountain. I don't think they're getting the message. 800-288-9227. Cliff in Fort Worth, why do you think Kamala lost?
I think there's several reasons. One, she talked about doing all these things or fixing all these things that she broke. Well, that doesn't buy much. The other thing is she's from India. Family was from the highest class in India. She wasn't middle class. She was from the highest class in India, so they were pretty well off.
What are those, like the Brahmas or something?
Middle class. Right, yes. Plus, she talked about being black. She's not black. She's Indian. And they did a research on her. Candace Owens looked into her background.
I saw that.
With any common sense. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I think he looks black. He's from Jamaica, and so even if he has some sort of mixed ethnicity, that counts as, he has black phenotypes.
Yeah, he has the types, but he doesn't have the background. I mean, it's just like Obama. He's not black, but he's colored. He's got the color. He's not a black man. But it's ironic because if she would have just came out and said, yeah, I'm Indian, okay, let's get past that. But don't try to be black. Don't try to be Hispanic.
Well,
don't try to do things Hillary did.
She can be both. I don't think that was her obstacle at all. I think even people on our side of the aisle would be ecstatic to be able to vote for a female, especially a female of color. If nothing else, just to prove to the outside world, say, I told you I'm not Hitler.
Yeah, well, tell me you're a female of color. That's fine. Don't try to be black. That's what she was trying to go on. She changed from Indian to being black. Then she's going to show up in a church, in the Christian church. I would have liked to seen her get baptized, which I don't think would have ever happened. And, again, we're looking at what she's trying to do, pander.
Okay. Now you're making some good points. Because, Cliff, you pay attention, obviously. Has she been baptized before?
No, she hasn't.
I don't know.
The records that we've been able to find.
Yeah.
So I don't know. She's not a Christian.
The correct answer is we don't even know. We don't even know what religion she is. And she was asking, and she almost got half the country to vote for her. And we know so little about her. All right. Thank you very much, Cliff. Ron in Fort Worth, you're next up on WBAP. Why do you think she lost?
Well, it goes on the same lines as kind of what y'all were just talking about. But for one, the Democratic Party, they've gone so far left, and the Democratic Party, they condone things that are ungodly. They vote into law same-sex marriage. That's ungodly. They support the transgender agenda. It's ungodly. And then you've got somebody at their rally yelling out Jesus is Lord, and she says you're at the wrong rally. Go to a smaller rally down the street. But I think that message got a lot of Christians out to vote this time for Trump because they've had enough of it. Second thing is when they interviewed her and they asked her how she voted in California on Prop 36, which is how strict you're going to be on crimes, she would not disclose that information. She wasn't being transparent, like she did not want people to know, and I think that hurt her. The third thing that Trump really capitalized on was her comment on The View, where when she asked what she would do different from Biden, when she said nothing comes to mind, when, oh my goodness, there's so many things that come to mind, right?
Yeah, Ron's got a list, huh?
So I think none of that stuff helped her. I mean, every time she opened her mouth, it just hurt her. And those are just three examples.
Well, I noticed you were focused on the spiritual angle, not so much like the economic angle. I found that to be interesting, Ron. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Let's go to Bobby and Irving. You're next up on WBAP. And if you want to get in line, 800-288-9227. Bobby and Irving, why do you think she lost?
I believe it's when they punched us in the soul and took that transgender agenda and forced it on the schools so they could keep it from the parents, and then made us watch our young men beat up our young girls in sports. To be honest, I think that was the death blow right there.
Did you see the news that came back? And it was this week from the International Boxing Association that controls such things. They don't care about our election timing. The report came back from that Algerian boxer that won the gold medal in the women's side at the Olympics this year, has XY chromosomes, actually has a micro version of, normal male undercarriage parts, and officially ruled a man. And so we were right. That was a guy beating up women at the Olympics.
Wait a minute. You mean the media lied to us again?
I'm so shocked. So shocked. And look, I think one of the things that a lot of people are feeling a little more confirmed, we've all been suspicious of the 2020 election. The evidence is piling up and coming just overwhelming that there was some chicanery going on in the 2020 election. So this finally completes my little checklist here of all the things that I had censored on YouTube. It was either for the lab leak conspiracy or masks don't work or the vaccine, you're still contagious if you have it or you'll still go to the hospital. Everything that I ever got flagged for turned out to be true except for that one, and now that one's true. So everything I've ever been censored on, the things I lost my YouTube channel for, they're all true now.
1,000. Good job.
Isn't that something? All right. Thank you very much. That's Bobby and Irving on The James Show. And that's one of the reasons I knew it was true, because this is the only, air quote, fact check that hasn't been disproven yet. That's how I knew it was true. I got time to squeeze in one more. Let's do Calvin and Denton. Why do you think Kamala lost?
Well, I think they lost because they took the mask off. They got overconfident when they took the 2020 election, and then you go back and look at all the years that they've been in power, they've just run wild with it. The American people woke up to it and said enough.
Well, that's why we're having this conversation and why this conversation is so important. If they don't understand why they won or why they lost, then they're going to make the same mistakes in the next election cycle. And by stealing the election of 2020, I think they got the false impression that, yeah, we can just run a basement campaign, because Joe Biden did the same thing. They've now done this 2 election cycles in a row where their candidate doesn't go out and do an event every day. They call a lid early. They take days off. They don't do press conferences where they just sit there and randomly answer questions for 2 hours. They call it the basement campaign as a metaphor, but they tried that in 2020, and I think they came away with the impression that it worked, and they're finding out the hard way that it didn't. Calvin?
Well, they're going to do it again because they're Democrats.
Well, hey, it works on a third of the country. A third of the country went out and voted for Team Blue, so you got to try and understand why those people think the way they do. It's probably because they watch too much Jimmy Kimmel. That might be one of the factors. If this is the news you're getting, then...
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare.
Yeah, that's so funny. What a great comedian he is, that Jimmy Kimmel. All right, why do you think Kamala lost, and what can they do to win the voters back? 800-288-9227. You'll hear from your roving reporters in North Texas coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. Does Team Blue understand why they lost? I mean, we're still enjoying the crying here, but look, there's lessons. We've had to learn lessons from past election defeats, despite what they tell you on CNN. Here's Ashley Allison again talking about, well, they never have to be.
There is a lot of talk about soul searching. And when you lose, I like sports, like you run the tape, you study what you did wrong. And I think Democrats should do this. But I just have to say, I don't think Republicans did soul searching after they lost in 2020. I think that, they lost. Trump denied the election results. For 10 days or so, people were like, January 6th is awful. And then we slowly and surely found people fall back in line.
There's no, first off, they didn't lose in 2020. There's no introspection necessary, but they made giant changes to their platform, not just from 2020 to 2024, but really over the last 20 years. Look at how much both of the parties have changed. The Democrats went, the question used to be, should we allow gay people to get that little piece of paper called a marriage certificate or not? And now it's gone to, should we be grooming elementary kids through the public school libraries into the deviant lifestyle, or just having sex talks with kids in any form is just weird. Like, that's the discussion now. And then the Republican Party now is not the Republican Party you grew up with. Half of Republican Party Republican people in surveys, conservatives in surveys, are okay with marijuana legalization. They're okay with gay marriage. They basically took abortion out of the platform, and that was a huge change from 2020 to 2024. So fine, don't learn your lesson, Ashley Allison. Just dismiss it. No, we don't need to do any introspection and soul searching. I mean, they never do. All right, let's check in with how Cardi B is responding to the election. Is she handling this very well?
This is like one of the most unforgettable elections, and I love her. And I don't say I love a lot of people. Y'all know that, because I hate everybody.
All right, people start typing MAGA in on the screen right now.
This is history, Cardi. I swear to God, my academics are like, I'm sick of you. I'm sick. Get away from me. Sick of you.
All right, let's see what our neighbors in North Texas. Here's your chance to be a political pundit on WBAP. Steve in Arlington, why do you think Kamala lost, and will they make some necessary changes? Steve in Arlington, go.
Hey, hello. Well, thanks for having me on. I think the real issue is, for the last 20 years, the Democrats have relied on identity politics. I don't believe Barack Obama ever would have gotten elected in 2008 if he looked like Bernie Sanders.
Correct.
And I think this cycle, when Biden's debate was a bust, they went back to their playbook and they went and found a candidate that could run it as a black female.
Well, that's why she got chosen for the job. And that's not me saying it. I have the audio clip of Biden saying, I don't know who it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a black female. So why you spoil it like that? Why don't you say, I know it's going to be the person who deserves the job the most with the highest merit, and it just so happens to be a black female. But no, he admitted it was a DEI hire, so you're absolutely right. They stuck with identity politics, and now that the identity connections are shifting, Trump won with male Latinos. Now, he lost bigger with female Latinos than he won with male Latinos. But once that, because it's like 45% support right now, once that gets to like 55, 60%, if Team Red ever gets 55 to 60% of Latino support, I bet you they shut the border down.
I bet you they do too.
Right? Yeah. So we're about to see if that happens. And here's the other cool thing with this demographic shift. If black voters keep moving toward Team Red, once it gets close to 50-50, if it gets to like 40-60, because it's at about 20% of black men voted for Trump, according to some of the exit polls. Once it gets close to 50-50, the black vote, every major American city, almost every major American city, flips red.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, great takeaways. I appreciate your job as a freelance pundit. John in Fort Worth, why do you think Kamala lost?
Well, I believe she lost because she just didn't have the mojo going. She did tap on a lot of policies and, mentioned a lot of different things, but she didn't really get into detail, and she didn't win the Obama base, I don't believe, because according to the numbers, there was a lot of people that did not vote either. So, I mean...
Well, Obama did have mojo as much. Their platforms are almost identical. So you're right to point at some intangible. There was no coolness or swagger that was surrounding her. They weren't making all these awesome parody songs. And yeah, it was different. He seems like at least his public persona is a lot more likable and genuine. Yeah. I think the laugh turned people off, even though they would never admit it. Right. And there's a lot to be said for the sort of the mojo factor. I mean, it shouldn't. We should all just be blind to that sort of thing and, just base our vote on who's going to run the country the best. But mojo's a factor. Michelle and Gunner, you're on WBAP. What do you think happened?
In the beginning, when Biden first, stepped out that he wasn't going to run and Kamala was going to run, people hate Trump more than they care about Democrat policy, I think. And so they weren't going to vote for Trump just out of spite. And then Kamala started talking, and she literally talks for 40 days and 40 nights and says nothing. And I think some Democrats that flipped Republican kind of pinpointed those things. Like, she talks forever, blah, 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 support transgender, when there's really no backbone to anything that she says. So I think it was partially that, but also there's no denying the fact that we all had more damn money when Trump was in office. And everybody needs money. Things are expensive.
For the most part, yeah. And you're right. No one was voting for Kamala. No one was voting for Biden. And so I think the idea that you can just hate on Trump and call him Nazi and fascist and Hitler and whatever else, and that's enough to win you the day. I think they thought that worked in 2020 and it would work again. But that's not what won for them in 2008 and 2012. They were very a pro-Obama campaign. It was a pro-Obama message. You weren't voting against Trump. You were voting for Obama. You weren't voting against McCain or Romney, I should say. Yeah, they did kind of take a different approach there. And I don't know if that's like the lesson they need to learn, from here on out and make the candidate the forefront of your message. But you're absolutely right how the whole thing was just from a place of negativity. And again, the platform should matter beyond anything else, but we're not talking about rational voters. We're talking about how do you convince people with a 91 IQ to vote your way. There's dumb people out there, and they're not and they're not convinced by our intellectual logic algorithm talk over here. Let's go to Donald in Fairview. You're next up on the James Show. What do you think happened, Donald?
Well, I think it was a big deal was the fire that was in the panhandle of Texas, and over 1 million acres burnt.
Really?
And over 5,000 miles of fence burnt, and thousands upon thousands of cows died, and thousands upon thousands of other animals died. And these are the people that are animal lovers. They don't want you to hunt. They don't want you to have guns. They want you to do as they say, not as they do.
So wait, how does that affect the outcome of the election?
Well, when you send all them people in Texas, 0 tankers, 0 helicopters, and 1 million acres burned, I think some people take notice of that. I think that's who they really are.
Well, yeah, that would affect the vote in Texas, but Texas was already going to go red anyway. That doesn't explain how she lost Wisconsin and how she lost Michigan. No one in Michigan is like, oh, man, that fire response was terrible. We should go red.
I disagree with you, sir, because I'll tell you, I go to Wisconsin sturgeon spearing every year. I go to Michigan to hunt. I go to many places to do what I do, and it's all for fun, and it's all enjoyable. But all these people seem to agree with Texas and Texas people. They can say what they want to say about, oh, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do the unions, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and transgender and this and that. The people in Texas don't go for that, and the people in these other states really don't go for that either.
Well, they don't as soon as you get out of the big cities, because the Wisconsin map looks very much like a caricature. It's like, where is a major population center that's over 300,000 people? That county went blue. Everything else, totally red, Donald. Thank you very much. I appreciate your insight, sir. Let's do David in Burleson. You're next up on WBAP. Why do you think Kamala lost?
Well, I think there's probably about 30 different reasons, but I think what turned it into a landslide was the fact that Donald Trump ran those transgender ads that featured Charlemagne the God during the football games and brought in a lot of black men that weren't otherwise paying much attention to the election. A lot of them seemed surprised that I know that never had really thought about it, and then they saw those ads during the football game. They're like, "Man, I'm not voting for her."
Well, that's always been probably the most socially conservative bloc of the Democrat voting constituency, followed closely by Hispanic men. And so, yeah, you could see that they kind of bristled when the gay marriage was being pushed through. Like they voted it down, even in California. What was like the 2007 vote or whatever that got blamed on the overwhelming no votes from the black constituency. And I guess they just pushed that one cultural issue a little too far. That kind of does explain why some votes would peel off. I mean, I have to think a big chunk of that was economics too. Black people go to the same grocery stores we go to, and they have to pay the same price as we do. And I think their standard of living went down as much. But yeah, the transgender stuff certainly doesn't help.
Well, and I think it was pretty sly to save that ad with Kamala herself saying that she wanted taxpayer money paying for prisoners and illegal alien sex change operations. I thought that was pretty sly of Trump to save that for the October, kind of an October surprise, you know?
Right. And it's something that doesn't directly or even indirectly affect me or you, David, or the guy listening, but that is a weird belief to have, isn't it? I just can't get behind that. Well, my next guest probably has some strong opinions on that. He's the chairman of the Tarrant County GOP. Bo French back on the James Show. Hey, Bo. All right, let's ask you first. Why do you think Kamala lost?
Well, if you heard her speak or give an interview or do a press conference. Oh, wait, you never heard her do a press conference.
Ooh, that's a good one.
If you actually heard her speak, I mean, she didn't offer any message of hope or a policy or anything that anybody could point to that was going to impact their daily lives. I mean, they tried to hide her as long as they could. When they realized that wasn't working, they then started trotting her out for some of these interviews. And, yeah, they were just terrible. If the teleprompter went out, she couldn't answer a question. She couldn't give direct answers. She couldn't answer any policy questions. It just was a giant sham. And remember, they didn't even select her in the primary process. It was a palace coup. They replaced Joe Biden with her when they realized that he didn't have a chance. It was kind of a Hail Mary effort on their part. And I think a lot of people just looked at that and thought, this is not what we want. We need somebody who's going to be strong on the border, strong on the world stage. We're nearly in World War III, given what's going on with China and Taiwan, given what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, given what's going on in the Middle East. Our borders being invaded. We've had 20 million illegals cross into our border. I mean, she offered no solutions and projected no power in any of those situations. So I think people just rejected that.
Well, let's talk about Tarrant County. How did you guys do over there in your elections? What were some of the big offices, and did y'all win?
When President Trump was on the ballot in 2020, he actually lost Tarrant County. So we reversed that, and he won by about 6 points this time around. So pretty remarkable turnaround for Tarrant County. A lot of people had predicted Tarrant County was going to go blue, like totally blue. And not only did we reverse it, we had huge wins all across Tarrant County.
So what were some of the other things on the ballot besides, people? Because we had the big propositions on our ballot here in Dallas County concerning the cops and the city manager and whatnot. What did y'all have over in Fort Worth?
Yeah, we had a pretty clean, straightforward election. We didn't have any ballot initiatives or anything like that. It was just strictly the candidates. Yeah.
Okay. So going forward, you're the Tarrant County GOP. Do you guys see some clear sailing? Do you actually see some things getting done like that have been on the agenda list that you just haven't been able to address yet?
Well, I think the Democrats have viewed Tarrant County as kind of the golden prize for Texas. They see if you can win Tarrant County, you can eventually win Texas, and so they're spending a lot of money in Tarrant County, and I don't think they're going to stop doing that. Hopefully we will have discouraged them a little bit by making such good gains and showing that Tarrant County actually is a red county and not a purple county or leaning blue county. And, my goal is to make Tarrant County a place where when Republicans are thinking about moving to Texas, Tarrant County is the top of the list because they know they're going to come get lower taxes and safer streets, better law enforcement, have a sheriff that's focused on crime and reducing crime, I should say, reducing human trafficking, reducing drugs on our streets. So for those reasons, I think that, we still have a lot of work to do. There are ways we can improve that, but there's a lot we're going to do to make Tarrant County even more red.
Are you guys, I know sometimes this is a true statistic, but currently, are you the largest, most populous red county in America?
We are. Tarrant County is officially the largest red county in the United States.
That's so cool. You guys must be doing something right over there, Bo French.
Well, we are trying to, that's for sure.
All right. Well, if people want to get involved, how do they come be a part of what you guys got going on?
So, you can find out most of what's going on in Tarrant County by just going to our website, tarrantgop.org, or you can follow me on social media, primarily Twitter or X now. I don't really do much on the other platforms. Pretty active on X, though.
Okay, who is your Democrat counterpart in Tarrant County? Do y'all know each other? Can you get him on the show for me? Because we keep reaching out to Team Blue, and it's just not working.
Her name's Crystal Gaydon, and I've actually had a couple of debates with her. NAACP put on a couple of debates, and so I willingly went and did that. Kind of went into hostile territory, but it was great fun. We had pretty good debates, and look, they have an uphill battle in Tarrant County. They like a lot of Democrats, they're delusional, thinking that they have this opportunity to turn Tarrant County blue. And then, we smacked them down this time, and we're going to continue doing that. We raised more money as a party than we ever have. We spent more money in this election than we ever have. We contacted and had voter contacts of almost 2 million voters this election cycle just from the Tarrant County GOP. So, we really did things in a way that hadn't ever been done before in Tarrant County, and we're just getting started.
All right, that's Beau French, chairman of the Tarrant County GOP. Thanks for being on the James Show again, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me, James. Have a good day.
See, we keep an eye on our neighbors over Tarrant County, too. Look, as your host, James Parker, the point of diagnosing the problem is so you can fix it. And I don't want the Democrats to be a dumpster fire party that loses all elections. We need at least 2 healthy political parties to not have a one-party, state, and that's even scarier. So I want them to improve. I want them to recognize that the American people were turned away from them based on, number one, inflation and the economy. Probably a big number 2 is the border. The weird thing about wanting to have sex talks with elementary school kids without their parents' permission is probably coming up in 3rd place or so. So what should you do if you're Team Blue and you want to win voters over? Well, based on my view of the landscape, if Democrats want to have a better shot in 2028, they need to tighten up their border policy, number 1. Number 2, they need to tighten up their economic policy, their monetary policy. Don't run giant deficits. Don't cause inflation. Keep that economy running. Minimal intervention by the government in a regulatory state. And then number 3, drop all this thing about men can have babies and we need to mutilate perfectly working body parts of minor children. And I guarantee you, if they do that, they'd have a better chance of winning. However, it doesn't matter if I say it. They have to say it. They have to understand. So what does The View say when I ask the question, why did Kamala lose?
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
Misogyny.
The border crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are...
So you hear, Sonny Hostin, misogyny and sexism. That's what it was. She can't say racism because she brought up the most Hispanic voting jurisdiction in America. So it's just misogyny. It's just sexism. That's all. An inability to criticize yourself means you are not you're going to not come up with the solutions to your problem. Because what's the solution? If it is misogyny and sexism, then what do the Democrats need to change in order to win in 2028? Fight the patriarchy? How disconnected from Earth can you be? You go fight the patriarchy. If prices go up 30% when you're in office, doesn't matter what the patriarchy says. You're going to have some unhappy voters. Let's see what you say. Craig in Mansfield, why do you think Kamala lost?
Hey, great program, and glad to follow up the Tarrant County guy because I'm a proud resident of Tarrant County for the last 53 years.
Well, fantastic.
So a point I'm going to make is early voting. All we heard on the news the last 2 weeks was record turnout. But yet Trump received 2 million less votes this go around than he did in 2020. Biden received 81 million votes in 2020. Kamala Harris received 68 million. Where did the 13 million votes go? Did they go on vacation? Did they leave the country? Where did they go?
I think the Nazis got them. I think they got put in internment camps, either based on the color of their skin or who they decide to copulate with. And we've been secretly putting them in FEMA camps behind the watchful eye of the media.
Exactly. And then, so this brings up another point. Hillary Clinton received 65 million votes in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Biden 4 years later gets 81 million. Where did these 16 million voters come from 2016 to 2020, and then all of a sudden they disappear 4 years later?
Well, this is one of the great takeaways that I wish someone would just bring that up on MSNBC or CNN just to see what they say. Because coming up in about 15 minutes, I'm going to have a January 6er on. A guy here locally who's one of your neighbors who walked through the Capitol on January 6th and had his life ruined, got thrown in prison, charges put on him. I mean, he did time. And so when people bring up what you're bringing up, Craig, that, hey, we were waiting on this evidence to sort of prove our case that 2020 was a shady election. And since this case is now proven, what does that make January 6th? The Stop the Steal rally? They really were trying to stop the steal because the election really was stolen. So they were righteous in their rally. They were righteous to go down and try and demand that their representatives look into this further. They were righteous in their claims that the election was stolen. They were, and so they're not criminals. They're heroes. They're patriots that were trying to save the republic and wake our representatives up. And so the rest of us could see what they saw, and they turned out to be right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Well, just wait for 15 minutes because I talked to Larry Brock before the show, the J6 prisoner, and he is fired up to talk to you. The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3.